So, good day. Our discussion for today is about feedback mechanism. As you can see here, I already bombard you with a diagram of what we are going to discuss today. So, don't worry, it may be overwhelming at first, but as we go on through the concepts, things will be simpler for you to understand. Okay, so let's proceed. So, here, let's have the first component of our diagram, which is variables. Okay, let's talk about variability. Let us define first the word variable, or let us simplify it rather. Okay, when we talk about variables, we are referring to an element in a system that can yield to different results. For example, heat perception. We can categorically determine temperature ranges in which we can say that our body are in normal range of temperature. We can determine if we are febrile or experiencing fever. We can also determine if our body is getting cold, if we are experiencing chills. These differences are what we referred as variability. Okay? Okay. Next, let's talk about stimulus. So stimulus are events or things that induces change in a system. So, for example, here we have the integumentary system. Okay, for example, you were in a hot environment and the temperature is high. So, therefore, it will trigger a change in the variable. Okay. Next, we have the receptors. The changes in the system will be detected by the receptor. In this case, we have the neurons of the integumentary system. Okay, so it will be detected that there is a hot temperature in the environment, and that information will be sent along through the afferent pathway. Okay, so what is afferent pathway? So these are your neurons that uh, relays message from the body part to the central nervous system. Okay, the CNS. Okay, so peripheral nervous system, the nerves along your body will fire messages, information, and it will be passed along until it reaches the central nervous system. So that is the afferent pathway. Okay, next we have the control center. So in this case, we have the central nervous system. So the central nervous system, from the word itself, and the control center, it will direct the message. So in this case, the output will come from it. Okay? So here we have the output. So the information is sent along the efferent pathway. So efferent pathway, it's the polar opposite of the afferent. In this case, we have the central nervous system firing impulses, firing information towards the peripheral nervous system. Okay, from the brain to the spinal cord uh, to the different neurons in our body. Okay, now these messages will reach the effector. Okay, now the effector will determine the response. Okay, let's read this uh, step. So the responsive effector feeds back to influence magnitude of stimulus and it returns variable to homeostasis. For example, again, the hot temperature, that is the first stimulus. The integumentary system, the skin will detect that the environment is hot, the temperature is high. Then we have the control center. The control center will determine the output. It will be sent to the effector, and the effector uh, will respond. Okay. So in this case, since the environment is hot, the the response would be sweating. Okay. We sweat because we want to cool our body. Okay? It's a biological response. If we are in a warm or hot environment, the integumentary system will trigger, uh, will respond to it. You know? So you will sweat a lot. So that is your body bringing back uh, the imbalance back to normal. So remember, the goal of the feedback mechanism is to always bring back the state into to homeostasis. Okay, to balance. Now, okay, now let's review what we've discussed in the previous slide. So first, we have the variable here. Okay, a stimulus will trigger a change in the variable. It could be an increase or decrease. Okay, now the change will be detected by the receptor. So that is your neurons, the neurons of the peripheral nervous system. So, for example, now the information will be input. So it will be sent along the afferent pathway. So the afferent pathway are your peripheral nerves, okay, peripheral nervous system. Then the information from the peripheral nervous system will be sent to the central nervous system. Okay, the central nervous system is the control center. It determines the specific course of action that your body is going to uh, take. Okay, so the control center, it will pass along a message. So in this case, we have the output. So the information is sent along the efferent pathway. So the efferent pathway, to simply put it, we have the central nervous system. It will fire messages to the peripheral nervous system. Okay. Now, until that messages reach the effectors. Right? Now, the effectors will implement the output. So here we have now the response. Okay. So response of effector feeds back the influence, magnitude of stimulus, and return variable to homeostasis. The response is always to bring back the imbalance to homeostasis or to balance. Okay? From imbalanced state, the goal is to bring it back to normal. Okay? So here we have an example. So suppose this is you. So you are in a hot environment or a warm environment. So the body temperature will increase. Okay? Now, you need to cool the body. You need to cool the body and bring it back to normal temperature ranges. As a result, there will be sweating. Okay? So sweating is a mechanism that lowers the body temperature. Okay? Yan. And thus, the uh, it will bring it back to the normal temperature ranges. Now let us have uh, the second scenario. So suppose you are in a very cold environment. So of course, the stimuli from that environment will trigger the decrease of your body temperature. Now, the heating mechanisms will be activated. So as you can see here, so this is the reason why we shiver whenever we experience cold temperature. So basically, that is a way of your body to bring back the temperature to its normal ranges. Okay, so that's it. In our next synchronous session, what I will teach you are the two types of homeostasis. So we have, uh, or rather, two types of feedback mechanism. So we have positive feedback and negative feedback. Okay, so I will see you next synchronous session. And thank you for listening to this recorded lecture. So, bye bye.